Okay, the time now is 12:05 and the webinar will begin. Good afternoon, I guess it is, to everyone. My name is Enrico Stradiotto. I'm the incoming president for the chapter in 2021. I bring greetings on behalf of OPWA and from the board of directors. For some of you who are not members of OPWA, the Ontario Public Works Association is a not-for-profit organization of professional public works practitioners. We're the Ontario chapter of the Canadian Public Works Association, and we're one of 55 chapters within the American Public Works Association. We have over 600 public works practitioners employed by provincial governments, municipalities, also with consulting engineers, utility companies, contractors, and suppliers in the private sector. The chapter is also set up geographically with two branches. In the Niagara region, we have the West Central branch. In the Ottawa region, we have the Ottawa Valley branch. There are many resources available to our members. The Ontario Public Works Connects is a new educational resource program that's just started in the last month, bringing educational resources to OPWA's membership. Webinars is just one example providing these resources. Today marks the first webinar of the many more to follow each month, so please stay tuned. Please visit opwa.cpwa.net to learn more about the chapter and its upcoming events. I'd also encourage you to look at the current committees of OPWA. Here's an opportunity for you to get involved. Committees are always looking for new members. The mission statement of the chapter: connecting the public works community. At this time, I also wanted to give some recognition to our annual sponsors. Without their generous support, we wouldn't be able to bring events or activities or webinars like this to our membership. So thank you very much to our sponsors. Maybe some of you who are attending in today's webinar are employees of these companies. So once again, thank you very much for your support. Just maybe some basic rules before we get started with today's session. We ask that participants please keep your video turned off and your microphone muted at all times. Questions will be addressed at the conclusion of the webinar. Questions can be placed in the chat window during the webinar. In order to do so and to open your chat window, just move your cursor to the bottom edge of your screen. This will open the lower taskbar in Zoom. Click on the chat option and type in your questions. Just bear with me here. We're going to get our speaker set up for today and have him share his screen.
Okay, great. Just bear with me. Can everyone see the screen?
We don't have it up on the screen yet, Aziz.
We'll have it up just 1 second. Share screen. Screen 3.
And there we are. It's coming up.
Well,
While Aziz gets set up, I'll just introduce him very briefly. Aziz Ahmed, he's Manager of Approvals and Licensing with the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks. Today's subject presentation is about the upcoming changes to the Watermain Disinfection Procedure and linear sewage works approval.
Great. Okay, thanks, Enrico. Can everyone see this, the slides okay?
Yeah, slides are up, Aziz. We're just not in the slideshow mode.
You're not in the slideshow mode. Just bear with me then. Apologies, guys. Just 1 second. Let's see what's happening. Okay, so video. How's that?
We're still looking at the slide deck, Aziz.
Still looking at the slide deck. Okay. Yeah. Just bear with me a second here.
Yeah, if we can't flip over, Aziz, it's large enough in terms of what we're seeing, so we could work with it in this mode as well.
Yeah. Okay. Are you any change now?
No, we still have your slide deck.
Sorry, this is just bear with me. This is a little. I'm working across 3 screens, and so this is a little bit wonky for me as well. So I don't know why this is. We rehearsed this yesterday, by the way, and everything
Yes.
was great. So
No
I don't know.
problem.
It's one of those strange techno things that just does not wish to happen. Let me just see if one more shot at this, and if I can I will share, and let's try screen 1. How's that?
No, it still remains the same.
Okay.
I did have a message coming in. You might have to share the screen, the slideshow full screens on.
Okay. Yeah. My full screen. I've got full screen mode up.
Maybe.
How's that? Hey, how's that? Anything there?
No change.
Okay, hold on. I'm getting closer. Share. Okay, how's that?
Hey, now something has come up here. We have an overview draft for discussion.
Perfect. And it's full screen and all that?
It's full screen, yes.
Okay, that's terrific.
Success. Way to go.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Enrico. Thanks everyone for bearing with me. In various, I'm kind of used to working in teams, and so sometimes these switching between platforms tends not to be as smooth. So as Enrico mentioned, I'm Aziz Ahmed, Manager of Municipal Water and Wastewater Permissions at the MECP's Environmental Permissions branch. I'm going to be giving you 2 talks today. The first is on our area-wide linear infrastructure ECA proposal. What we'll do is to kind of give you some ideas of the project objectives. I'll tell you about the working group that was established to help us put this together, and maybe some of you had a chance to participate in that. Talk about the Prescribed Persons Regulation 208-19 that was passed last year, and talk about how that helps us implement this consolidated permissions framework. And then we'll get into the new ECA framework that we want to transition into. Talk about the framework, the design criteria, inspection and testing requirements, the templates themselves, and then the sewage collection systems and stormwater system ECA requirements, and then the next steps and timing. So our goal is to implement the Prescribed Persons Regulation as part of our ECA framework. And one of the features of this Prescribed Persons Regulation is that it allows property developers who are carrying out alterations to a municipality's infrastructure to basically do this without needing to get a separate ECA. So they can do this under the municipality's ECA as long as they have an agreement in place with the municipality under the Planning Act or the Development Charges Act. The next thing that we want to do is to transition to a consolidated permissions framework. We call it the area-wide linear infrastructure, and this ECA would cover all of a municipality's sewage collection system in one ECA, and all of its stormwater management systems in another ECA, and it would include all of those components that are located within a municipality's boundaries. So we started working with a technical working group basically in 2018, composed of municipalities, major consultants, industry organizations, and ministry staff. And as you can appreciate, at this time, we were really trying to consult about two things: a design criteria for our most frequent ECAs that we saw applications for, which is the pipes. And then, wanting to move towards this consolidated permissions framework instead of the kind of the pipe by pipe, piece by piece approvals that we do now. And so we were very fortunate to have representation from a wide band of municipalities all across Ontario. Major associations like Aqua, WEO, OWWA were involved. Major consultants, equipment manufacturers, ministry staff were part of this initiative. So fortunately, the ability of the ministry to authorize works into the future is already allowed by the Environmental Protection Act. So Section 20.6 of the EPA allows the director to put terms and conditions having to do with future specified alterations in an ECA. So that refers to alterations that are carried out by the owner of the ECA. It also allowed for alterations, extensions, et cetera, that are carried out by persons prescribed by regulations. And this, the persons prescribed by regulation were not in place up until last year, even though this authority existed since 2012. So the prescribed persons regulation, it's actually called the Environmental Compliance Approval in respect to sewage works. It was passed last year, and its purpose is to streamline the approvals requirements for constructing sanitary sewage collection and stormwater management systems, specifically that a municipality either owns or will own. So prescribed persons such as developers can construct works under municipalities' ECA if they meet specific conditions, and in which case they don't have to obtain their own ECA for that. And the specific conditions referred to are one, meeting the sewer and force main design criteria that this is a ministry developed document, and as well as the owner complying with the conditions of pre-authorization that are in the ECA. So this area-wide or consolidated permission, it's modeled after what we already do in the municipal drinking water licensing program. So all of you who are in the industry, it's highly unlikely that you have applied for an ECA for water distribution, so water mains or something like that, unless these are very large water mains. Those are all pre-authorized as part of the license. We want to kind of move towards this consolidated framework now for sewage collection and stormwater management. We've also, some of you may be involved in the Municipal Transfer of Review program. And this basically is a delegation of the ministry's review responsibility to some of our municipal partners, where they do actually, they do the technical review on behalf of the ministry of developer-related applications, and they recommend these to the ministry, and the ministry will approve them without any further technical review. In addition, another form of consolidated permission that we have been issuing is a wastewater system-wide pilots. There's about 10 municipalities that have these. So essentially, these are like a consolidated permission for sewage collection and stormwater management works. So you can, as you can imagine, some of the essential features of this framework are it's a single permission for all of the interconnected works with the same owner or works that are within a same municipality. It uses standardized permissions for the sewage collection system and stormwater management. That includes pre-authorization of many routine alterations that are carried out by a municipality. It also includes pre-authorizing the expansion of the collection system or the establishment of new stormwater systems within a municipality, which are part of new residential property developments. And very importantly for us, it modernizes the terms and conditions for environmental protection from what's there in ECAs right now, some of which date back to 1970, and it modernizes all of them collectively. And to do this, one of the things it relies on is this standardized design criteria for the pipes, which would be then pre-authorized if the design follows those requirements as conditions in the ECA. So the Prescribed Persons Regulation 208, it's one of the key enablers that we have, and it allows a developer who has an agreement with the municipality under the Planning Act or Development Charges Act to essentially construct works that extend a municipality's infrastructure. The second enabler is this design standard for the pipes. Now, both of these things are, by themselves, they don't do anything. But once they get incorporated into the conditions of the linear ECA, they become, obviously effective in the sense that this consolidated permission, includes all of a municipality's own works, whether they be sewage collection pipes, pumping stations, et cetera, or there's stormwater management system, all of the pipes, the ponds, the LIDs, everything else that forms part of a municipality's stormwater system. And specifically, the Prescribed Persons Regulation and the design criteria feed into a schedule in this proposed ECA, where the director has conditions which authorize either the municipality or this prescribed persons who are property developers to carry out alterations to the municipality's infrastructure. So what that allows is that we issue about 700 to 800 approvals for property development related sewage works and stormwater management every year. These are issued as separate ECAs. They're done partly under the transfer program or under direct submission. But you can imagine we have issued since 1972 over 100,000 approvals for this infrastructure for our 400 municipalities. So our approvals framework, aside from those who have system-wise, is very fragmented. So what would happen is that once this area-wide is in place, instead of issuing a separate ECA for a particular property development, there would be a ministry-supplied form in which the prescribed person, usually the engineer working for the developer, would attest that they're meeting the design standard. The owner would, municipal owner would attest that they're meeting the other conditions of pre-authorization. And any of you who want to look at what these ECA templates are, they are posted up on the EBR registry, and I'll show you how you can obtain a copy of those. And so if this Form 1 is in place, no separate ECA is required. Essentially, this form is maintained for compliance purposes. It's not submitted to the ministry. And the ministry it would require that every regular time period, like let's say 5 years, this linear ECA is updated through an application so that the terms and conditions are always kept up to date with our most modern environmental protection requirements. So the framework, as I mentioned, is very similar to municipal drinking water. You've got, municipal drinking water. Let's say the City of Toronto, one license and one permit for their entire system, which includes the intake, 4 major water treatment plants, and 5,000 kilometers of water mains within their boundaries. This potable water goes into residential developments, commercial and institutional buildings, and then some part of it comes out as sanitary sewage. These developments, roads, etc., also generate stormwater. And so what our goal is that instead of the many thousands of approvals that may cover these works, that we would have, again, just like on the drinking water side, a single municipal sewage collection ECA and a single stormwater management ECA. The wastewater treatment plant, that would remain outside this consolidated permissions approach. So again, our approvals framework is fragmented. It's fragmented in terms of project by project, pipe by pipe. There's no really holistic way for us to view what the infrastructure is doing. City of Toronto, for instance, has 4,000 approvals we've issued to them. So what we want to do is to transition into this state where there's a single permission for the entire sewage collection system and one for the stormwater management system. And again, it's for the collection system only. The treatment plant and the outfall remain outside this, this framework. And further, another way in which our approvals are fragmented is by media. So, the Sewage Works approval includes, wastewater and stormwater. Municipal sewage collection system has air emissions associated with it through odor control facilities, emergency generators, etc. Those are all covered in separate air and noise approvals. We want to include all of these things, regardless of media, into a single multimedia approval. On the stormwater management side, there's really no air emissions, but there's waste generated. There's waste residuals from storm pond sediment from the collection system. We want to provide, within the authority of the ECA, ability to dewater, physically process, and beneficially reuse the sediment. And perhaps deal with some of the generated processed water, by recycling that back up into the system here. An example: the Ministry of Transportation, they had a single pond project up at Mavis and 401. They were cleaning out the pond. The disposal cost for that sediment was going to be $2 million just for one pond. We were able to work with them through a systems ECA, whereby they were able to reuse that sediment at a road project at Dixie and 401 to build noise berms. So, again, a significant saving of taxpayer dollars, as well as a beneficial reuse of the material. And just to highlight, in that case, they weren't meeting the criteria in Table 1 of the excess soils regulation. And we were able, through the ECA, to find this other way of dealing with that sediment. Okay, so the design criteria, just to overview this, it covers sanitary sewers, force mains, storm sewers, and what we call third pipes. And this establishes the minimum design requirements for an alteration to the conveyance system or the stormwater management system as one of the conditions that they would have to satisfy to have these considered, as I said, pre-approved or pre-authorized. If it's undertaken in conditions with the ECA and the design criteria, then no separate approval from the ministry is required because they're pre-approved. The difference between the design criteria and our existing wastewater system guidelines is that the design criteria is written in unambiguous compliance language as opposed to guideline language, and it makes it easier for consultants and designers to ascertain whether they comply with the requirements. And municipalities can adopt standards that are higher than those in the design criteria. So this design criteria forms the floor, as it were, of the design. And just some of the things that the design criteria cover for sanitary sewers, it's, design flows, friction factors, slopes, pipe cover, service connections, kind of fairly standard design things, but again, written in more detail to allow for a designer to ascertain compliance. And again, for force mains, the flow velocities, friction factors, anchors and restraints, transient pressures. Those are some of the design criteria that are covered. I should add the full design criteria document is posted on the EBR registry, and I will provide you information at the end of this on where to access that. And again, for storm sewers, different things like how to calculate the runoff, the pipe sizing, need for maintenance holes, inverted siphons, etc. The design criteria also cover combined sewers, in the sense that while you can't install new combined sewers, we have pre-authorized the rehabilitation of existing combined sewers, as well as providing for the construction of CSO detention facilities of a certain size. One very important criteria that was brought to the attention of the ministry by the regional public works commissioners was the incidence of low or inadequate quality construction causing significant inflow and infiltration into sanitary sewers, eating up capacity at the sewage treatment plant, and causing environmental overflows into our water bodies. And so inspection and testing requirements have now been made mandatory for any pre-authorized work. So these are, there's going to be mandatory post-construction inspecting and testing requirements with the goal primarily of reducing inflow and infiltration. Some of the requirements will be having a mandatory video inspection of all new sewers and appurtenances, leak testing of sewers and force mains, mandatory deflection testing, and ensuring that if the sewage and water infrastructure are located in close proximity, that additional testing is done. So right now, if you get ECAs, this is kind of an overview of what the new ECAs would look like. The Schedule A, it would be based on schedules. It looks like municipal drinking water licenses or permits, if those of you who are familiar with that. There will be system information, like kind of the boilerplate information about the system owner. Then there would be the system description of all of the works that are in the ground and commissioned and working for a municipality. And these would be whether they were constructed without an approval or not. Schedule D would have the conditions of pre-authorization, and Schedule F would have then the operating conditions for that municipal sanitary sewage or stormwater collection system, and Schedule F will deal with residue management, which is the management of solid waste from that system. If the works are not exempt from approval or they're not pre-authorized, in the future, instead of issuing you separate ECAs for these, they would be issued as a schedule to the existing municipal ECA. So this is the document, the Schedule C, which would authorize alterations that aren't pre-authorized, and it would form part of this, so that we would not issue you the 10-digit ECA numbers as we do now. You would have one ECA number that's in highlight there that'll always remain the same. We think that'll make it much easier for record keeping purposes. In terms of system alterations, right now, if you have a new project, if it's not exempt, it needs to get an ECA. In the future, with this new framework in place, you'll ask, is it pre-authorized through a condition of an ECA? If it's not, you will apply for an amendment. You will, there'll be a technical review, just as it's done right now. You will not receive a new ECA, you'll receive the Schedule C. Then you undertake the alterations, and then you'll notify the director of completion through a ministry provided form. And then you're done. And if there's a need to modify the description of the ECA, you'll receive that sometime in the future. With pre-authorization now, you have a new path. Is that you'll ask yourself, is this pre-authorized? If it is, then you complete a ministry supplied form for your records and then undertake the alterations in accordance with the conditions of the ECA. If it changes the description of the system in the ECA, you notify the director again using a ministry supplied form, and then you're done and you're back at the same place. This ECA will be updated, the consolidated ECA, at least once every 5 years. Okay, so again, the ECA templates in general, I won't belabor this because you can go and take a look at the templates in detail on the EBR registry. But here kind of are the standard requirements that they will have. It's very similar to current ECAs, except for you have to remember now it applies. There's one ECA for an entire municipality, and these requirements apply to all of them. And again, some of the key highlights is of the collection system ECA. It describes all of the components that are in the ground owned by a municipality, or for which the municipality is the beneficial owner, in the sense that the works are going to be built and transferred to ownership to them. It describes all system components. It references a separate document, which is basically a schematic of all of the sewers, as well as the pumping stations and storage tanks that are part of that collection system. It specifically identifies overflow points and combined sewer structures. And the pre-authorization conditions are there, which allows for the alteration or extension of sewers and force mains. It allows for like-for-like replacement of existing combined sewers based upon having a pollution prevention control plan. It also has its multimedia, includes equipment with emissions to the air, etc. I'll just move on to the sanitary, the municipal stormwater system. Again, it's the same kind of thing in terms of describing all of the stormwater infrastructure, aside from the very large regional flood control ponds. It pre-authorizes alterations, which include storm sewers. It also includes really everything with regard to stormwater management, ponds, LIDs, green infrastructure, based on the conditions of the ECA. And you have to go take a look at the ECA template to get more details about this. And it also talks about a third pipe system. These third pipe systems are essentially a communal system for the collection of relatively clean roof runoff or foundation drainage for the purposes of reuse primarily. And again, this is covered in the design criteria and the conditions of the ECA. So again, the third pipe, it's the as I said, for the reuse. I've mentioned that municipalities can adopt higher standards than those in the design criteria. Again, I want to say if the the design doesn't meet the design criteria, it doesn't mean that it's unapprovable. It means it's not, it just means it's not pre-authorized. You need to get a ECA amendment for it, kind of like the way you get ECAs right now. So in terms of the next steps in timing, there's an EBR consultation taking place on this proposal. That's the ERO reference number 019-1080. You can access this on the environmental registry and get all of the documents. The posting of this proposal closes on September 6th, so you still have time to get us comments. If you're interested in commenting on the ECA template and the design criteria, we have line numbered versions of the templates and design criteria, and we're asking that you use the MS Word commenting feature to provide us comments in this, because it allows us to compile the comments in a reasonable period of time. And that's the email address, mdwlp@ontario.ca, and you can request the line numbered version. If you don't want the line numbered versions, all of the documents can be found on the EBR posting. And with that, that's my name and contact information. And I'll ask Enrico whether we should stop to take questions on this right now, or if I should launch into the Watermain Disinfection Procedure.
Well, Aziz, we have one question, so why don't we address that one question, and then we'll move on to the next part of your presentation. So the question that's been given is, what measures should be taken in design when installing a new water main in close proximity to an existing sanitary, combined, and storm sewer, less than 2.5 meters horizontal clearance and less than 0.5 meters vertical separation in order to satisfy the F61 procedure?
Great question. So the requirements for that are contained in the water main design criteria. There's a number of options that are provided that allows for either sufficient clearance to be provided, or provides for encasing the water main in basically in another pipe so that it is protected from contamination. So those options are in the water main design criteria, and that document is available through the ontario.ca website.
Okay, so she kind of had a reciprocal question about new sewers in close proximity to existing water mains. It's probably same type information contained in those references, Aziz?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So one of the things is that the design criteria for storm and sanitary pipes references the water main design criteria. So yeah, you can definitely go and take a look at both documents that kind of work together, with the goal again of ensuring that the water mains are protected from possible contamination.
Okay, great. Let's move on.
All right. So we're going to be brave here and try to skip on to the next thing. So let's just. How are we doing?
Looks good. Updates to MECPs.
Nice. Okay. So we've got it worked out. This is another initiative that the ministry's been working on for quite a while, and glad to be able to give you some timely updates about this. I'll just give a quick talk about our 2015 Watermain Disinfection Procedure and why we've undertaken to revise that document within the 5 years. Talk about the proposed revisions. The slide is a bit dated. Those proposed revisions are no longer just for discussion because we have finalized them. So as I said, that was done August the 1st. So this is a timely session. So for those of you who don't do a lot of work in the water main break world, this was one of those things that was a bit of a, kind of a best management practice prior to the issuance of the first licenses and permits in 2008. And after that time, compliance with the AWWA standard C651 became a mandatory condition of the municipal drinking water license. One of the problems we had was that the document was very ambiguous in terms of being able to be used as a compliance document. And there were things in there that, just kind of tended to contradict each other. And so we were fortunate at the time, shortly after we issued the licenses and permits, that we became aware of this Water Research Foundation Project 4307. It was led by Greg Kermeyer and Marc Le Chevalier, in which they basically looked at the risk factors of various types of water main breaks, and they worked with 29 American and 1 UK utility to come up with these. And they were looking to see if, what are the risk factors that can be used to determine public health risks. And they happily categorize risks into, type 1s, which are the ones that have the least potential for contaminating a water supply, all the way up to a type 4 where, there's a risk of contaminant intrusion. Happily, the procedures in type 1, 2, and 3 were almost identical in terms of response. So we were able to actually do a refinement to that when we implemented our version of the of C651 for Ontario system owners. So the focus of the 2015 Watermain Disinfection Procedure, so AWWA C651, it deals with installation or routine installation of water mains, and as well as emergency repairs for breaks. So really the focus of our 2015 document was with regards to main breaks, and so it dealt, we came up with our own categorization of water main breaks based on the risk of contamination. There was a requirement that an operator in charge be there at the break to determine the category and to document their reasons. It has procedures for agency notification and reporting, observations of improper disinfection, as is required under the Safe Drinking Water Act, Schedule 16. There was also water main break procedures, which regardless of the type of break needed to be followed, and then obviously documentation of the break and for future inspection purposes. One of the things that we realized early on is that if the water main remained pressurized throughout during the break and throughout the excavation until pressure was reduced, it's highly unlikely that potentially contaminated water was directed to users. And that was very helpful for a lot of public health units as well as ministry staff. So in our 2015 document, we categorized main breaks based on risk of contamination, both before and after flow reduction. So we have category 1, there's no evident or suspected contamination. You can look at the picture on your right, and yep, certainly water's flowing out, doesn't appear to be any contamination. And then, category 2, there is evident or suspected contamination. You can see there's a wide blowout there of that pipe, as well as we categorized any repair that needed more than 6 meters of replaced pipe, more than one standard pipe length, as a category 2. One of the things we did is that we made sure that it wasn't an observation of improper disinfection if you had a water main break. Only if you had reason to believe that improper disinfection was improperly disinfected water was distributed to users, in which case the requirements for reporting and corrective actions under Regulation 170 were followed. We also clarified that just because you have a main break, you don't you don't have to automatically report that to the ministry. The only time you have to report it is if there's a water advisory that's been declared, or if it's a special case of contamination that's either chemical or sewage in nature. We also clarified that for the Category 1 main breaks, that microbiological samples were not necessary. Okay, we were also, after we issued the 2015 document, we received, up until about 2018, about 64 separate issues, requirements for clarification or opportunities for identified changes to that document. As I mentioned, the focus of the previous document was on water main breaks and emergency repairs. We did a pretty good job of covering those off, but the proposed revisions were more focused on new water main construction and replacement. There were also issues raised with regards to new water mains that were being constructed and where following C651 was causing public safety and constructability issues. And there's proposed clarifications for the disinfection, sampling, certified operator requirements when commissioning new water mains. There was also requested clarification for some of the main break categorization and disinfection requirements. And of course, the need to add additional documentation requirements. So I don't know if any of you had a chance to participate in our working group, but again, this group put together the 2015 document, and they were called back to help us revise this document again. So we don't have a lot of time, so I won't get into this in detail because the document is available for anybody who wants a copy of this. We made certain changes to the existing definitions in the document, including clarifying what is an acceptable disinfectant concentration, redefining backflow prevention to clarify its requirements, defining connections, which we did not before, as well as defining flushing to clarify some of those requirements. And also addressing the issue of direct supervision for the purposes of our ECA, our license, and then the requirements under the Occupational Health and Safety Act. So the standard C651, it applies to all water mains additions, replacements, extensions. It also applies to temporary water mains. And it applies to service pipes greater than or equal to 100 millimeters in diameter. We provide certain exceptions. There's exceptions to backflow prevention in 4.8.9 of C651, exceptions to scouring velocities, and we provided exceptions for disinfection procedures where water mains or service connections are crossing transportation corridors. There's now language in there about the use of hydrants to supply temporary water mains. That was, for some reason, people thought it couldn't be done. We've made sure that, that we have included language in there for that. Just one thing, please be aware that C651, it requires that the new water main be isolated using physical separation until a satisfactory bacteriological testing result has been completed. The temporary connection has to include an appropriate cross-connection control device. And in our case, we're not allowing double check valve assemblies anymore because they can't be tested on site. Only a reduced pressure zone assembly will be allowed. So as I mentioned, backflow prevention is a requirement for installing new water mains. And the two recognized methods are air gaps and a reduced pressure backflow preventer. And the RP device must be field tested in accordance with B6410. At every site except for where the device is being relocated within the same day. And the tester's requirement is an OWWA certified cross-connection control specialist license. One of the things that we clarified previously on August 7th is that samples taken from water mains or under construction are not drinking water tests as defined under the SDWA. Therefore, you don't need to report these as adverse test results if they come back negative. So there was microbiological samples for new water mains. Obviously, this microsampling needs to be done, and it must be done at a licensed and accredited laboratory. Samples taken prior to final connection are not drinking water tests, and so they're not reportable. We've clarified for connections to new water mains that we are providing exceptions in the case where these connections are more than one pipe length from some of the disinfection requirements. And backflow prevention measures within section 4.8.9 are not mandatory for connections. Okay, so for final connections, for connections equal to or less than one pipe length, the disinfection procedure is that this may be spray disinfected or swabbed just before being installed. And if that's the case, that's acceptable. One microsample has to be taken in accordance with the Watermain Disinfection Procedure. There's an exception where if the certified operator witnesses the installation and the disinfection, the connection can be placed into service without the microsample. For connections greater than pipe length, there's a very detailed procedure where this must be set up above ground, disinfected, and bacteriological samples taken. And after satisfactory bacteriological samples have been obtained, then the entire assembly is lowered into the ground. This is quite onerous, and especially when crossing transportation corridors. And so we've allowed for exceptions to this. And the exceptions is that, you can follow if it's greater than one pipe length, but if it's crossing a transportation corridor where the extended closure would result in significant community impacts, that we would allow this water main to be disinfected using the procedures in 4.10-1, which is the ones for single or less than one pipe length. So this is the so connections of one pipe length and up to a total length of 40 meters may be constructed within the excavation and disinfected similar to one pipe length if the following conditions are met: that it's disinfected or spray disinfected or swabbed. That a certified operator, and this is the key, the certified operator witnesses the collection, that microbiological samples are taken, and hydrostatic testing is not done until satisfactory microsamples are obtained. So we have also included clarification of certified operator requirements. We have a lot of inspection of and cleaning of water mains that takes place. Some of it, the inspections as while the water main is still in operation. So we have provided disinfection procedures for, let's say, video inspection equipment that's in contact with potable water in the disinfections, in the drinking water system. We have also provided for procedures for where an existing water main needs to be realigned kind of on the spot, and what type of disinfection procedures need to be followed. Sometimes that's done when you're installing other infrastructure, as you mentioned, like things like network equipment, gas mains, etc. Again, clarifying that the requirement, whatever applies for service pipes also whatever applies to water mains also applies to service pipes greater than 100 millimeters in diameter or greater. And this exception from disinfection requirements also applies to service connections. And we've clarified requirements for how to recommission a water main that have been isolated from the distribution system for an extended period of time, such that the disinfectant residual was not maintained. And in terms of the emergency brake procedures, everything is being maintained in terms of the categorization as it was. The only change now is that every brake will be classified as a category 2, that is evident and suspected contamination, and that the procedures for that are followed unless the OIC conducts a visual examination and concludes that it's a category 1. So that's a bit of a change in the procedure, which we think will make things a little bit simpler for municipalities. And in terms of the documentation requirement, the big addition is now the documentation requirements. Instead of just applying for water main breaks, will also apply to new water mains and planned replacement. So again, all of this information is available to you through the ministry. Just in terms of the next steps, we revised the document and provided it to stakeholders for comment in 2018. We have now finalized all of the comments, and the new version of the Watermain Disinfection Procedure has been issued. It's dated August 1st of this year. The implementation of the new procedure is through the license renewals that municipal owners are going through right now. There's also an option for early adoption of the procedure for those who want to use some of the flexibility in the revised procedure earlier than their license allows. And we'll continue to work with municipalities to provide them with interpretation and advice on the new procedure. So that's it for me. And does anybody have any questions?
Hello, Aziz. Yes, that was an excellent presentation. Thank you very much. There were a couple questions that did come in, and I'd also invite our attendees to continue using the chat room to post any additional questions you may have. So the first question we have, during reconstruction projects, sometimes the final connection looks like it might be under 6 meters of depth, but when the area is excavated, it ends up being greater than 6 meters of a connection to the existing distribution system. So probably bends are being used. We have been treating this like a category 2, feeding in one direction and taking a bacteriological test. Is this appropriate? The area cannot be valved off until the bacteriological test comes back.
I would say that it sounds appropriate. I would appreciate actually if this question could be maybe documented, and I will go and check with the working group and ensure that we provide a correct response.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah.
So we can have some follow-up to these particular questions if needed, and have that available to the attendees for today. There was a second question. When we do temporary bypass disinfection testing, do we need to test the larger water service connection as well?
If they are greater than 100 millimeters in diameter, then the answer is yes.
Okay, just seeing if we have any more. Doesn't appear to be at this point. We'll just give it a minute or two. One question was just asked generally, Aziz, if you have any, if the slide deck that you presented today could be available to the attendees.
Sure, I'd be happy to provide that.
Yeah, okay. I've also let the attendees know that we have recorded this session and it will be available on the OPWA website. So we have a couple more questions coming in. During a connection, can the blow-off pipe be considered within the connection length as it is tested, but will be rotated down to connect?
You know what? Again, if kind of without getting a clear picture in my head what this looks like, I would ask if you could maybe document that. Please send it over, and I'll be happy to provide a response.
Okay. If people don't mind, we'll continue with the questions as they do come in. The next question. As for the OIC making the call of class 1 versus class 2, is it the same when there is a contractor doing work for you? There would be an engineering company on site already. Does the OIC also have to sit there for the entire repair?
So this is one of those ones where the procedure is now changed, whereby it's a category 2 unless the OIC revises it down to a category 1. And that may be one of the reasons where we wanted to make this change is because if it's a category 2 and the OIC doesn't revise it downwards, you just proceed with it as a category 2, right? Sorry, there's some messages flashing by here. Yes, and so if that's the case, then I think that the OIC doesn't need to be there throughout the procedure, only if they need to, if they've revised it downwards. Again, one of those questions, great question. Please document it and send it over, and I'll provide a more fulsome answer.
Okay, there's a couple more here. Since the new procedure has clarified the requirements for having a certified operator present for new water main final connections, will this now be considered operational hours for the operators? So for example, operator duties under the regulation.
We've had a lot of questions about that. Again, my group does not work with operator certification. This is another one of those where I'd ask that the questions be documented, and we'll provide a response from the people responsible for operator certification in the ministry.
Right. Okay. And looks like one last question here. With the new classification of water main breaks, at what point would the public health unit and MECP need to be contacted based on the fact that all water main breaks are classified as class 2 until the OIC deems it a class 1?
So the answer is that no water main break needs to be reported to either the ministry or the medical officer of health unless you have reason to believe that improperly disinfected water was distributed to users.
All right. Well, that looks to be the end of the questions, and we're 7 minutes past 1, so maybe we can call it there for the day. Once again, to you, Aziz, thank you very much for your presentation. Very informative. Obviously, a lot of questions around this subject matter, and we appreciate your knowledge and insight. I'd like to thank all the participants on this webinar today. We had a total of 60 participants, so that's a great showing for today. As mentioned already, webinar has been recorded. It will be available in the coming days, possibly weeks being 2 at most, but anyways, we'll get on it ASAP. I'd ask you to please keep tuned in to our next webinar that's going to be upcoming at the end of September. And this will be a continued series for the Ontario Public Works Association. Any information you need to ask of us today, you can send us an email at info@opwa.ca. So I'll just repeat that again, info@opwa.ca. We'll be in contact with you just to let you know when things are available, both some of the questions that we will get further support on, as well as the recording for today. So with that, I'd like to conclude today's webinar. Thank you for your time and interest, and hope to see you back in another month or so. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.